The transport shuttle's engines hummed their final notes as 16 young humans stepped onto Galactic Academy Station for the first time. Owen Reed pressed his face against the observation window, watching Earth shrink to a blue marble behind them. 5 years ago, humanity had cracked faster-than-light travel. Now they were here, floating in orbit around Tellus 9, about to spend a month learning alongside 42 different alien species. "Stop gawking and move," someone muttered behind Owen. He grabbed his bag and followed the group through the docking corridor. The walls shifted colors as they walked, responding to their presence with soft pulses of light. Everything smelled different here, like ozone mixed with something sweet he couldn't identify. Their guide waited at the end of the corridor. Tark stood about 4 feet tall, with 6 legs and a body that reminded Owen of a praying mantis covered in blue-green armor. His compound eyes reflected fractured versions of the humans as they approached. "Welcome to Galactic Academy Station," Tark said, his voice emerging from a translator device on his chest. "I am Tark of Ventura. I will show you where everything is and answer your questions. Please follow me and try not to touch anything that glows." The tour took 2 hours. The station was massive, home to 3,000 students living in rotating habitats designed for different gravity levels and atmospheres. They passed beings that floated, crawled, slithered, and walked on anywhere from 2 to 8 legs. Some looked almost human. Others defied easy description. Owen noticed something strange as they moved through the central commons. Students would cluster in certain areas, but one section remained completely empty. A large archway led to what looked like a garden dome, its transparent walls showing trees and rocks inside. Nobody went near it. "What's in there?" Owen asked, pointing. Tark's antennae twitched. "That is the restricted zone. Students do not go there." "Why not?" Several aliens nearby turned to look at Owen. Tark's translator clicked softly before he answered. "Because that is where Crows lives." "Who's Crows?" Tark led them away from the archway before speaking again. His voice dropped lower. "Crows is a Dractharian. He came here 3 years ago with his guardian, who was an ambassador. There was a political problem and the guardian had to leave, but Crows was too young to go home alone. The station took responsibility for him until he reaches maturity." "So why doesn't he hang out with everyone else?" Lucas, another human cadet, asked. "Because Dractharians are dangerous," a new voice said. A bird-like student with silver feathers had approached their group. "They are massive predators from a high-gravity world. Crows is 40 feet long with claws that could tear through metal. Most species are terrified of them." Owen felt a spark of curiosity rather than fear. "Has he ever hurt anyone?" The bird being's head tilted. "No, but his presence alone is enough to frighten most of us. It is instinctive, we cannot help it." Tark moved the group along, but Owen kept glancing back at the garden dome. That evening, after dinner in the cafeteria where he tried 3 different alien foods and found 2 of them edible, Owen stood at one of the viewing windows overlooking the restricted zone. The garden inside was nothing like the rest of the station. While other areas were clean and controlled, this space was wild. Volcanic rocks jutted from the ground. Strange plants with bioluminescent leaves cast everything in shades of blue and purple. Heat shimmered in the air. Thunder rumbled inside the dome, artificial whether creating a storm. Lightning flashed, and in that moment Owen saw him. Crows perched atop the highest rock formation, wings spread wide. Each wing had to be 20 feet across, membranes stretched between bone that looked both delicate and impossibly strong. His scales were black as obsidian, catching the lightning and reflecting it back in rainbow patterns. 4 wings, not 2. A long neck curved up to a head that was reptilian and something more intelligent eyes glowing like molten gold. Owen's breath caught, not from fear but from wonder. He had seen documentaries about Earth's extinct dinosaurs, read fantasy stories about dragons, but this was real. This was a living, breathing being from another world, and he was alone in there. "You should not stare," Tark said, appearing beside Owen. "It makes Crows uncomfortable when people watch him." "How do you know if nobody talks to him?" Headmaster Kell monitors him. Crows has everything he needs. Food, shelter, climate control, he is fine. Owen looked at his guide, but he's alone. He prefers it that way. Did he say that, or did everyone just decide it for him? Tark's antennae flattened against his head. You are new here, you do not understand how things work. Crows is not like other students, he cannot be. Owen turned back to the window. Crows had lowered his wings and was staring out at the station, at the lights and movement of thousands of students living their lives. Even from this distance, Owen could see something in that posture, not menace, loneliness. I'm going to bed, Owen said finally. But as he walked away, he couldn't stop thinking about the dragon in the garden, alone while the galaxy moved on without him. That night, Owen dreamed of volcanoes and wings spread against stars. 3 days of classes taught Owen more about the galaxy than any Earth textbook could. Xenobiology, stellar navigation, diplomatic protocol. His brain felt stuffed with information about species he'd never imagined existed. But every lecture, every meal, every quiet moment, his thoughts drifted back to the garden dome and its solitary occupant. The xenobiology instructor, a blob-like being named Professor Quinn, who communicated through color changes in his translucent skin, spent an entire session discussing Dractherians. They evolved on Dracora Prime, Professor Quinn's translator explained as his body shifted through shades of blue. A world of extreme gravity and volcanic activity. Dractherians require high temperatures and massive amounts of protein to maintain their metabolism. They communicate through subsonic vibrations as much as verbal language. Their society values strength and honor above all else. Owen raised his hand. If they're so advanced and honorable, why is Crows kept separate from everyone? The professor's colors flickered to uncomfortable purple. That is a complicated situation. Dractherians are by nature apex predators. While intelligent and civilized, their presence triggers deep survival instincts in many species. It is not personal, it is biological. But has Crows ever actually done anything to threaten anyone here? That is not the point, Cadet Reed. Prevention is preferable to reaction. Now moving on to reproductive cycles. Owen slouched in his seat. Lucas, sitting beside him, whispered, "You're really hung up on this dragon thing. Doesn't it bother you? He's our age, stuck in there alone." Maybe, but what are we supposed to do about it? Owen didn't have an answer, not yet. Lunch was served in the massive cafeteria, a space that accommodated dozens of different dietary requirements. Owen had learned to stick to the Earth food synthesizers most of the time. Today he'd also brought supplies from home, things his mother had packed. Beef jerky, dried fruit, nuts, comfort food. He sat with David and Lucas, picking at synthesized pasta while they debated whether the Quellen students actually hibernated or just really enjoyed napping. A commotion erupted 3 tables over. A Velthian student had accidentally knocked over a drink dispenser, and sparks flew from exposed wiring. Students scattered. In the chaos, Owen's container of Earth food slid off the table, skittered across the floor, and disappeared through a partially open maintenance vent before he could grab it. Seriously, Owen muttered. "Leave it," David said. "It's just jerky." But it wasn't just jerky. It was from home, from his mother who worried about him being so far away. Owen pulled up the station map on his datapad, tracing the maintenance tunnel routes. The vent led down toward the lower levels, toward the garden dome. "Don't even think about it," Lucas said, seeing Owen's expression. "I'm just going to grab my food, quick in and out." That area is restricted for a reason. Owen was already walking toward the nearest maintenance access. He'd grown up crawling through tight spaces, exploring construction sites with his friends back on Earth. These tunnels were bigger and cleaner than anything in Detroit. The path sloped downward. Temperature increased with each meter. By the time Owen found his container sitting near a thermal vent, sweat dripped down his face. The air tasted different here, heavy with minerals and heat. He grabbed the container and turned to leave. That's when he heard it. a sound like distant thunder deep enough to vibrate in his chest. Owen froze. Slowly he looked up. Crows filled the tunnel entrance ahead. Up close, the Dractherian was even more massive than Owen had imagined. Scales like black diamonds caught the dim light. 4 wings folded against his body. Eyes like molten gold fixed on Owen with frightening intensity. Every human instinct screamed at Owen to run. His heart hammered, his hands shook. But his curiosity held him still. This was a living, thinking being, not some mindless monster. "Hi," Owen managed. His voice came out squeaky. He cleared his throat and tried again. "Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. I just came to get my food." Crows didn't move, didn't speak, just watched with those burning eyes. Owen's hands moved before his brain caught up. He opened the container, took out a piece of beef jerky, and placed it on a rock between them. Then he backed up 2 steps, sat down on the warm stone floor, and pulled out another piece for himself. He bit into it, chewing slowly, pretending his heart wasn't trying to escape his chest. "I bet you don't get real meat very often, do you? Probably all synthesized nutrient paste. That's what they give everyone for safety reasons. But this is actual beef, from a cow. Well, from a synthesizer that used to be connected to cows, but close enough." Crows remained motionless for so long Owen wondered if Dractherians could fall asleep standing up. Then, moving with surprising delicacy for something so large, Crows extended his neck. His nostrils flared, taking in the scent. A forked tongue, dark purple, flicked out to taste the air. Carefully, precisely, Crows picked up the jerky between 2 claws. He lifted it to his mouth and swallowed it whole. Owen waited. Crows made a sound, low and rumbling, that resonated through the tunnel. Not aggressive, almost questioning. "Good, right," Owen said. "There's more if you want it." Crows tilted his massive head, studying Owen like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Another rumble, this one longer, with variations in pitch that might have been language Owen couldn't quite hear. Owen placed the rest of his jerky on the rock, then slowly stood. "I should go before someone notices I'm gone, but maybe I'll come back tomorrow, if that's okay." Crows didn't respond, but he didn't stop Owen from leaving either. As Owen backed toward the tunnel, the Dractherian settled onto his haunches, wings rustling softly, and watched. Owen climbed back through the maintenance tunnels, his mind racing. He just met a dragon, an actual alien dragon, and survived, more than survived, connected maybe just for a moment. He told no one. Owen returned the next day, and the day after that. Each visit brought something new. On the second day, Crows was waiting when Owen emerged from the maintenance tunnel. The Dractherian had positioned himself near the thermal vent where they'd first shared food. Owen brought more jerky and some peanuts he'd saved from breakfast. They sat closer this time, only 10 feet apart. Owen talked about Earth while Crows listened, occasionally making those deep rumbling sounds. The third day, Owen described oceans to a being who had never seen large bodies of water. Crows leaned forward when Owen explained waves, tides, the endless blue stretching to the horizon. The dragon's eyes seemed to glow brighter with interest. By the 4th day, they sat only 5 feet apart. Owen noticed details he'd missed before. Old scars marked Crow's scales in several places. One wing had a tear along the membrane that had healed but left a mark. These weren't battle wounds. They looked like the kind of injuries that came from being alone too long, from rubbing against rocks with no one to care. On the 5th day, Owen brought spicy sausage from the Earth food synthesizer. Crows devoured it and made a sound that could only be described as pleased, a purr mixed with distant thunder. The 6th day changed everything. Owen had just settled into their usual spot when Crows spoke. Not rumbles or subsonic vibrations, but actual words. His voice was deep, resonant, each syllable like a bell being struck. "Why do you come here, small human?" Owen nearly dropped his container. "You can talk. I mean, of course you can talk. I just didn't know if you would." "I asked you a question." "Right, sorry." Owen gathered his thoughts. "I come here because I wanted to meet you, Because everyone acts like you're dangerous, but I didn't think that was fair. Nobody even tries to get to know you. I am dangerous, Crows said matter-of-factly. I could kill you without effort. But you won't. There's a difference between can and will. Crow's head tilted, considering this. Most beings do not make that distinction. They see teeth and claws and run. Yeah, well, humans are weird like that. We spent most of our history living alongside predators. Lions, tigers, bears. We learned that dangerous doesn't always mean hostile. Owen paused. How long have you been alone here? 3 years, since I was barely past hatching age. Crows settled onto his belly, bringing his head closer to Owen's level. My guardian was Ambassador Thelcrows. He was accused of sharing classified information with an unauthorized party. The accusation was false, but politics required a scapegoat. He was exiled, and I was too young to return home alone. The Academy agreed to house me until I reached maturity in 1 more year. That's awful, I'm sorry. Do not apologize, you were not responsible. Crows paused. But you are the first to ask, the first to care about the answer. Owen felt something tight in his chest. He'd been away from home for less than 2 weeks and already missed his family terribly. 3 years alone would have broken him. Don't people at least try to talk to you? Fear is stronger than curiosity for most species. The few who attempted to approach would flee when I moved or spoke. Eventually, everyone stopped trying, including me. They sat in silence for a while, then Owen had an idea. Do you like music? I do not know, I have never heard it. Owen pulled out his datapad and scrolled through his collection. He picked something with a strong beat, classic rock from the 20th century. The opening guitar riff of an old song filled the garden dome. Crow's eyes widened. His tail began moving, unconsciously keeping time with the rhythm. This is music, these sounds. One kind, yeah. Earth has thousands of different styles. They listened together. Crow seemed fascinated by the drums, the way rhythm could build and change. Owen played 3 more songs, each different. Blues, jazz, something electronic. The dragon absorbed it all. Thank you, Crow said when the music stopped. I have been given food and shelter, but this is the first gift anyone has offered. Owen smiled. I can bring more tomorrow. But the next day brought complications. Owen returned to his quarters after classes to find Tark waiting outside his door. The Ventoran's antennae were flat against his head, a sign of agitation. You have been going into the restricted zone, Tark said, not a question. Owen considered lying, then decided against it. Yeah. Why would you do something so foolish? Because Crows isn't dangerous. He's lonely. There's a difference. If station security discovers this, you could be expelled. The entire human exchange program could be jeopardized. Tark's translator crackled with distress. Please stop. I can't do that. Why not? Owen thought about how to explain. Because nobody should be that alone. Because fear shouldn't be a prison sentence. Because he's just a kid like us who got dealt a bad situation and everyone decided to make it worse by ignoring him. Tark's colors shifted, patterns Owen couldn't read. You truly believe he is safe? I know he is. Come with me tomorrow, C4. Yourself? Absolutely not. Then trust me, I won't tell anyone you knew and I'll be careful, but I'm not abandoning him. Tark's antennae twitched. Humans are insane. Maybe, but we're consistent about it. The Ventoran left without agreeing to stay quiet, but he didn't report Owen either. That night, Owen lay in bed thinking about the look in Crow's eyes when he'd said thank you. How much loneliness had to pile up before a simple song became precious. The next day, Owen brought a question instead of just food. Would you want to meet other humans, people like me who won't run away? Crow's was quiet for a long time. They would not wish to meet me. I think they would, if I explain things first. And if they react like everyone else, if they flee. Then we'll know I was wrong, but what if I'm right? Crow's wings rustled, a gesture Owen had learned meant uncertainty. Why risk your friendships for me? Because that's what friends do. Owen gathered the 15 other human cadets in the common room late that evening. They sprawled across chairs and floor cushions, curious why he'd called this meeting. "I need to tell you something," Owen began, "and I need you to hear me out before reacting." He explained everything. The first meeting, the daily visits, the conversations with crows, the loneliness of 3 years in isolation, the intelligence and gentleness hidden behind a fearsome appearance. David spoke first. "You've been sneaking into a restricted area to hang out with a 40-foot dragon for a week." "Yeah. And you didn't think to mention this because I didn't know if he'd want to meet anyone else. But now I'm asking, would you be willing to meet him?" Reactions split the room. Lucas looked excited. "You're serious? We could meet an actual Dractharian." "That's insane," another cadet said. "What if he's just been nice to you because you're feeding him?" Owen shook his head. "It's not about the food. He's starved for connection, not protein. Crows is just as intelligent as any of us, just as capable of friendship. He's been judged entirely on what he looks like, not who he is." "Humans do that all the time on Earth," Lucas said quietly. "Judge people by appearance instead of character. We should know better than anyone how wrong that is." David crossed his arms. "Even if we wanted to meet him, we'd be breaking station rules, all of us. Could get expelled." "I know, that's why I'm asking, not telling. This has to be your choice." Silence filled the room. Then Lucas stood. "I'll go. Owen's judgment is usually pretty good, and besides, we came here to learn about other species. Can't learn much hiding behind fear." 2 more cadets stood, then another. Eventually, 5 volunteers had committed, not all of them, but enough. Over the next 2 days, Owen coached them. Move slowly, speak calmly, bring food as a gesture of friendship. Don't stare directly for too long. Let crows set the pace of interaction. The meeting day arrived. Owen led Lucas, David, and 3 others named Ryan, Ben, and Carlos through the maintenance tunnels. Each carried containers of Earth food: grilled chicken, fish, cheese, various meats. Their footsteps echoed in the heated passages. They emerged into the garden's lower level. The heat hit them immediately, along with the mineral smell and strange bioluminescence. Ben whispered, "This is like a movie." "Remember what I said," Owen reminded them. "No sudden movements." Crows appeared from behind a rock formation. All 5 newcomers instinctively stepped back, but they held their ground. Up close, the Dractharian was even more impressive than Owen had described. Lucas breathed, "Magnificent." Owen stepped forward. "Crows, these are my friends. Lucas, David, Ryan, Ben, and Carlos. They wanted to meet you." The dragon studied each human in turn. His molten gold eyes seemed to look through them, reading something the others couldn't see. When he spoke, his deep voice made Ryan jump. "More humans, you are brave or foolish." Lucas found his voice. "Owen told us you were intelligent and kind. We figured he was probably right. He usually is about people. I could hurt you, all of you, easily." David surprised everyone by laughing. "Yeah, but you won't. That's the difference between having power and abusing it. We understand that." Crow's head tilted. "Your species is strange. Most beings who encounter predators run. You approach with food and conversation." "We evolved alongside predators," Carlos said. He placed his container of teriyaki chicken on a rock and backed away, sitting down like Owen had instructed. "Learn to read body language, understand intent. You're not showing any aggressive signals." One by one, the others followed Carlos's example. They placed their offerings and sat in a loose semicircle. Crows approached slowly, sniffing each container. He sampled the chicken first, then the fish. A pleased rumble echoed through the garden. "This is better than synthesized food," Crows said. "Everything's better when it's shared with friends," Lucas replied. For the next 3 hours, they talked. The humans asked about Dracora Prime, about Dractharian culture and history. Crows asked about Earth, about oceans he'd never seen and mountains that weren't volcanic. They showed him pictures and videos on their datapads. Crows watched footage of ocean waves with intense focus. "Your world has so much water. he said with wonder. Mine has lava flows and ash clouds. This seems peaceful. It can be violent too, Ben said. Hurricanes, tsunamis, but yeah, there's beauty in it. Ryan pulled up music on his datapad. More classic rock, some modern electronic. Crows listened, his tail moving in rhythm again. Owen introduced me to music. This pattern of sounds creates emotion. How? Nobody fully understands it, David said. But it's universal. Every human culture makes music. Maybe every intelligent species does. Dractharians sing, Crows said. But our songs are in frequencies you cannot hear, subsonic vibrations that carry across volcanic valleys. Could you show us, even if we can't hear it? Crows considered, then began. The humans felt more than heard it, a vibration in their bones that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The air shimmered with harmonics. It lasted only seconds, but left them all staring. That was incredible, Owen breathed. They were so absorbed in conversation that none of them noticed station security tracking their unauthorized access through the maintenance systems. The first warning came when Headmaster Kell's voice boomed through the garden's communication speakers. Human cadets, you are in a restricted area. Exit immediately and report to my office. The 6 humans froze. Crow's eyes dimmed slightly. You should go, blame me, say I lured you here. No, Owen said firmly. We made our choice. We're not throwing you under the transport. Lucas stood, brushing off his pants. We knew the risks. Time to face the music. Crows looked at each of them. Why would you accept punishment for befriending me? Because that's what friends do, Carlos said. They walked toward the exit together, leaving Crows alone in his garden once more. But as Owen glanced back, he saw something different in the dragon's posture. Not defeat, hope. The walk to Headmaster Kell's office felt longer than it was. Their future at the academy, possibly the entire human exchange program, hung in balance. But none of them regretted it. They'd seen past fear to friendship, and that was worth any consequence. Headmaster Kell's office occupied the highest level of the administrative tower. The 6 humans stood in a row before his desk, which appeared to be made from crystallized light. The headmaster himself was a being of living crystal, his internal structures pulsing with agitation. Do you understand the severity of what you have done? His voice resonated like wind chimes in a storm. You violated restricted access protocols. You entered a dangerous area without authorization. You placed yourselves at risk. With respect, Headmaster, Owen said, Crows isn't dangerous, not to us, not to anyone. We were never at risk. You cannot know that. Dractharians are apex predators. Their instincts can override rational thought in moments of stress. David stepped forward. Has Crows ever actually hurt anyone? In 3 years, has he shown any aggression? The crystalline being's light flickered. That is not the point. We have a responsibility to all students' safety. Prevention is our priority. So you punished him for what he might do, not what he's done, Lucas said. That's not justice, that's prejudice. Kell's structures brightened sharply. You are in no position to lecture me on station policy. I am considering expelling all of you and suspending the human exchange program entirely. Before anyone could respond, the office door opened. Tark entered, followed by a dozen other students from various species. The Ventoran's antennae were high and forward, a posture Owen had learned meant determination. Headmaster, we wish to speak, Tark said. This is a private disciplinary meeting. What they did concerns all of us. We have the right to be heard. Kell's light pulsed with irritation, but he gestured for them to continue. Tark moved to stand beside the humans. I told Owen he was foolish for approaching Crows. I was afraid, but I have been thinking about why I was afraid. Crows has never threatened me, has never threatened anyone. I have spent 3 years avoiding the Garden Dome because everyone else did. That is not rational, that is cowardice. A Quellan student stepped forward next. My people value courage above all else. These humans showed more bravery than any of us. They saw a being in isolation and chose connection over fear. We should have done that years ago. Others spoke up. A Mintrelian who admitted being ashamed they'd never questioned why crows lived alone. Two crystalline beings like Kel who expressed guilt at their species' failure to help one of their own integrate crows into station life. Kel raised a hand for silence. I appreciate your sentiments, but this does not change the fact that rules were broken. Then change the rules, Owen said. Crows has been here 3 years, 3 years alone because everyone decided fear was more important than fairness. That's wrong, and you know it. Even if I agreed, most species will not approach a Dractharian willingly. Biology drives fear responses that cannot be simply wished away. Then let us help, Lucas suggested. Humans can be bridges, will stand between crows and other species, show them there's nothing to fear. And if this experiment fails, if panic ensues? Owen met the headmaster's glowing eyes. Then you can expel us, send us home, end the exchange program, whatever, but give crows one real chance. Let him show the station who he actually is instead of what everyone assumes he is. Kel was silent for a long moment. His internal light shifted through colors Owen couldn't interpret. Finally, he spoke. One public appearance. The main commons supervised with clear safety protocols. If it goes poorly, you humans return to Earth immediately and crows will be transferred to a Dractharian outpost. If it succeeds, we will consider further integration. Thank you, Headmaster, Owen said. Do not thank me yet. You have taken on a significant responsibility. I hope you understand that. They understood. Over the next 2 days, Owen and the others prepared. They visited crows daily, explaining the plan. The dragon was hesitant, his voice heavy with doubt. What if they run? What if I prove their fears correct simply by existing in their space? Then at least you tried, Owen said. And you won't be alone, we'll be right there with you. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. Carlos answered this time. Because nobody should be judged by their species instead of their character. Humans learned that lesson the hard way on Earth. We're still learning it, but we know enough to recognize injustice when we see it. Crow's wings rustled softly. I am afraid. So are we, Lucas admitted. But we're doing it anyway, that's what courage is. They coached Crows on small gestures that might seem less threatening, keeping his wings folded and less invited to spread them, lowering his head to others' eye level when speaking, moving slowly and deliberately. Crows practiced with patience, wanting this to work. The night before the gathering, Owen couldn't sleep. He found David sitting in the observation lounge, staring at the stars. Having second thoughts, Owen asked. More like fourth and fifth thoughts. What if we're wrong? What if something goes badly and we've made everything worse for crows? Then we'll deal with it together. David smiled. You're annoyingly optimistic, you know that. It's a human trait. We keep hoping things can get better, even when logic says otherwise. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Morning came too quickly. Owen dressed carefully, made sure he had Earth snacks to share, and met the others at the designated time. They walked together toward the main commons, where hundreds of students were already gathering. The massive space had been arranged with an open central area. Galleries overlooked from above, packed with curious onlookers from dozens of species. Headmaster Kel stood at a podium, waiting. Owen's heart pounded. This was it. The moment that would determine Crow's future and possibly humanity's relationship with the wider galaxy. He thought about the lonely dragon who had spent 3 years in isolation, and he knew they'd made the right choice. Whatever happened next, at least Crows wouldn't face it alone. 500 students filled the main commons. Species from across the galaxy lined the walls and packed the upper galleries. Owen had never seen so many beings gathered in one place. The air hummed with nervous energy and countless languages being translated simultaneously. Headmaster Kel's voice cut through the noise. Thank you for coming. Today we address a situation that has existed for too long on this station. Crows of Dracara Prime has lived among us for 3 years in isolation. This was done for perceived safety, but recent events have forced us to question whether fear should dictate policy. Owen stood with the other 15 human cadets near the center. His hands were sweating. Lucas kept bouncing on his toes. Even confident Carlos looked tense. "Attendance here is voluntary," Kell continued. "Anyone who feels uncomfortable may leave. There will be no judgment." Nobody moved. Hundreds of eyes watched the main entrance. The doors opened. Crows entered slowly. At his full height, he was massive. Obsidian scales caught the station's lights like a night sky full of stars. 4 wings folded against his body. Each step was deliberate, careful. His golden eyes swept the crowd, and Owen saw fear there, tightly controlled. Gasps echoed through the commons. Several smaller species stepped back instinctively. A few Velthians near the front looked ready to bolt, but nobody ran. Owen moved first. He walked straight to Crows, stopped beside him, and said loudly enough for nearby beings to hear, "Hey, Crows, thanks for coming." The dragon's massive head lowered to Owen's level. "I hope I do not disappoint you, friend." "You won't, just be yourself." The other 15 humans surrounded Crows, not protectively but companionably. They moved with relaxed confidence, treating his presence as completely normal. Lucas pulled out containers of food. "Brought your favorites, teriyaki chicken and those spicy sausages you liked." Crows accepted the food with careful grace. The humans sat down in a circle, and the dragon settled among them, making himself smaller. They began eating together, talking and occasionally laughing. Owen caught David telling an exaggerated story about their first day on the station that made even Crow's eyes seem to brighten with amusement. The assembled students watched in silence. Owen could feel their attention like physical weight. This was the moment. Either fear would win or curiosity would. A young Quellan took the first step. The bear-like being approached the circle hesitantly. Owen waved him closer. The Quellan addressed Crows directly, his translator clicking. "Is it true you can generate heat internally?" Crows nodded. "Yes, Dractharians evolved on a volcanic world. We maintain high body temperatures." "Could you show us? Just a small demonstration." Crows glanced at Owen, who nodded encouragingly. The dragon inhaled slowly, then exhaled a thin stream of flame that hovered in the air. With precise control, he shaped it into a sphere, then a spiral, then let it dissipate harmlessly. The Quellan's eyes widened. "That is remarkable. The thermal control required must be incredible." "It is instinctive for my people, like breathing for you." Encouraged by this exchange, others began to approach. A Mintrellian asked about Dractharian music. 2 more Quellans inquired about his homeworld's geology. A young crystalline being like Headmaster Kell asked if he ever felt lonely. Crows answered each question thoughtfully. His deep voice became less intimidating as students realized he was intelligent, articulate, and genuinely interested in conversation. Owen and the other humans facilitated discussions, helping bridge cultural differences in communication styles. Then came the test. One of the Velthian delegates approached. The bird-like being's feathers were ruffled with barely controlled fear, but he stood his ground. "My grandfather fought Dractharian raiders in the border conflict 60 years ago. He taught me your people cannot be trusted." The commons went silent. Crows met the Velthian's eyes steadily. "And my great-uncle died in those same conflicts. He was a warrior who fell fighting brave Velthian defenders. That war ended before I hatched. I do not carry my great-uncle's grudges. Do you carry your grandfather's?" The Velthian was quiet for a long moment. His feathers slowly smoothed. "No, I suppose I do not have to." He didn't sit with the group, but he nodded respectfully before returning to his delegation. The tension broke. More students approached, drawn by curiosity now stronger than fear. Crows handled each interaction with patience and grace, showing interest in other species, asking his own questions, sharing food brought by the humans. An hour passed, then 2. The gathering transformed from a tense confrontation into something like a celebration. Students began sharing foods from their own cultures. Music from different worlds played. Species that had never spoken to each other found common ground in their shared curiosity about the Dractharian who had lived among them unseen for so long. Owen watched it all with growing warmth in his chest. He caught Lucas grinning and Carlos shaking his head in amazement. David whispered, "We actually did it." Headmaster Kell approached the circle. The commons quieted. He addressed Crows formally. "I owe you an apology. We failed you by choosing isolation over integration. If you are willing, I would like to offer you full status as a student of this academy with all rights and privileges. You would attend classes, use all facilities, and participate in station life like any other student." Crow's wings trembled slightly. When he spoke, his voice carried emotion that resonated through the space. "I accept. Thank you, Headmaster." Kell turned to address everyone. "Let this be a lesson for us all. Fear is often simply lack of understanding. The human cadets taught us that courage means reaching across divides we assume cannot be crossed. This academy will be better for remembering that." Applause started somewhere in the galleries. It spread through the commons, a sound made by hundreds of different hands, claws, and appendages. Crows looked overwhelmed, his golden eyes reflecting the lights and the faces of beings who no longer feared him. Later, as the gathering wound down, Crows spoke privately with Owen. "You gave me back hope. How can I repay this?" "Pay it forward. When you go home next year, remember there are good beings in every species. Teach your people what you learned here." "I will, I promise." 2 months later, the human exchange program ended. Crows had become a fixture of academy life, tutoring students in stellar physics and making friends across multiple species. Some Velthians still kept their distance, but even they showed grudging respect. The day the humans prepared to leave, Crows gave each of them a scale from his hide. Owen held his carefully, knowing it represented the highest honor a Dractharian could give. "You will always be welcome among my people," Crows told them. "When you return to Earth, tell them about the dragon who learned that being different does not mean being alone." Owen smiled. "Take care of yourself, and remember, friendship is just courage plus curiosity. You've got both now." The human transport departed the station. Through the viewport, Owen watched Crows standing on an external observation platform, wings spread in a Dractharian salute. Around him stood students from a dozen species, no longer afraid. On the journey home, Owen made a log entry. "We didn't change the galaxy today. We just reminded one corner of it that fear is a choice. So is courage. Maybe that's humanity's real gift. We refuse to let anyone face the universe alone, even 40-foot dragons who could probably eat us in one bite, especially them." The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of species humanity had yet to meet. Owen smiled, thinking about all the bridges waiting to be built.